"Mom, he's my brother," the little boy said, his voice barely above a whisper. Claire Whitmore, his mother, barely had time to register the words before Andrew's hand tightened in hers. They were just leaving a lavish downtown fundraiser at the Ritz, a world of glass chandeliers and delicate laughter, where champagne sparkled in tall flutes, and every conversation was wrapped in wealth. Andrew, only 6, looked every bit the part, dressed in a pristine navy blue suit, his hair neatly combed, his shoes polished to a shine. Quiet and composed, he had long been taught the language of silence, of measured smiles and polite nods. He held his mother's hand like it was routine, another part of the evening's schedule. But as they turned the corner near 6th Avenue, that carefully constructed rhythm shattered. Andrew stopped. Just like that, mid-step. Clara, graceful in her beige heels and tailored cream blazer, turned puzzled. "Andrew," she asked softly, "what is it, darling?" He didn't answer. His eyes were fixed ahead, wide and frozen, locked on the figure crouched near a trash bin against a graffiti-tagged wall. There sat a boy, barefoot, shirtless, his skin coated with dust and city grime. He couldn't have been more than 8 years old, maybe 9. His ribs pressed out beneath his skin like brittle branches, and his eyes sunk in, hollow, but alert. He held a crumpled piece of cardboard with one word scrawled in thick marker: food. For a long, heavy moment, the two boys just stared at one another. Silence expanded between them, thick with memory and something older than either of them could name. Then Andrew spoke again, this time barely audible. "Mom," he said, tugging on Clara's hand. "He's my brother." Clara blinked. "I beg your pardon?" "That's Malik," Andrew said, voice trembling now. "He used to give me food when we were little. In the place with the green beds. When I had bad dreams, he held my hand." Clara's face tensed, confusion cutting through her polished composure. "Andrew, sweetheart, you've never had a brother." "Yes, I did," Andrew insisted. His voice cracked under the weight of memory. "Before you and Daddy brought me here. When I didn't have suits. When I was cold." A strange tightness formed in Clara's chest, something she hadn't felt in years. She looked again at the boy sitting on the sidewalk. He stared back, not with anger or pleading, but with a quiet stillness, an almost unbearable knowing in his gaze. Clara's fingers twitched, and she instinctively tried to pull Andrew away. "Come, darling. Let's keep walking." But Andrew dug in his heels. "No," he cried, his voice suddenly loud in the city's background hum. "He's my big brother. He always shared. Even when he was hungry too." People turned. Drivers slowed. A few pedestrians stopped mid-step. Clara flushed, her poised image cracking at the edges. But Andrew had already let go of her hand. His small, polished shoes clicked gently on the pavement as he stepped forward, toward the boy who had once meant everything. "Malik," he whispered again. The boy looked up, his expression shifting as recognition flickered in his face. His jaw quivered, just slightly, like a wall built too thin was about to collapse. And in that instant, the difference in their worlds, navy suits and bare feet, glass chandeliers and crumpled cardboard, meant nothing at all. Because Malik wasn't a stranger. He wasn't just a boy on the street. He was the one who had whispered stories into Andrew's ear when the lights went out. The one who had wrapped his arms around him when the night got too long. The one who had once been his whole world. And now he was found. Andrew trembled, then broke into a run, throwing his small arms tightly around the thin boy's neck. Malik didn't react right away, his body stiff, unsure. But then slowly his hand rose and came to rest softly on Andrew's back. Clara stood frozen on the sidewalk, her hand still suspended midair, heart pounding. This wasn't imagination. It wasn't some story Andrew had invented. This was memory, real, buried, and now rising back like a ghost. It had been 5 years ago. Andrew had just turned 1 when Clara and her husband adopted him through a private international agency. The process had been seamless. Quick signatures, minimal questions, and just enough documentation to satisfy legal requirements. They were told he had been abandoned, that he spent a brief time in a foster center before being placed. But never, not once, was there mention of another child. No name, no photo, no Malik. As a small crowd began to gather around the unexpected reunion, Clara finally stepped forward, her voice shaky. You know each other?" Malik looked up at her. lifting one hand to shield his eyes from the glare. His voice was soft, careful, as if he hadn't spoken to an adult in days. "I used to feed him my porridge when the workers forgot," he said simply. "I told him stories at night. He didn't talk much back then, but he'd fall asleep next to me." Clara's throat tightened. "Why are you here?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Malik looked down at the sidewalk. "They never took me. Said I had breathing problems. Said nobody would want me." His tone wasn't bitter. He didn't cry. He didn't plead. He just held Andrew in his arms like someone who had done it before, during darker days, when no one else would. And in that moment, Clara understood. This wasn't a random act of compassion. Andrew hadn't found a stranger on the street. He had rediscovered someone he already loved. Someone who had once been his whole world. Who had held his hand when no one else had. That night, Clara sat at her grand mahogany desk in the stillness of her mansion. Tears streaked her perfectly applied makeup. Something that hadn't happened in years. Andrew had cried himself to sleep, whispering Malik's name over and over like a prayer, afraid to let go again. Clara wasn't used to this kind of vulnerability. She was a woman of results, balance sheets, structure, and power. But now she couldn't take her eyes off a single photo on her phone. Andrew wrapped around a frail boy on the street, holding on like it was life itself. And Malik sitting motionless, like he couldn't believe someone remembered him. At midnight, she picked up her phone and called her private investigator. "I need everything," she said. "Adoption records, orphanage details, medical files. Anything linked to Andrew's past. If there's another boy, his name is Malik. I want to know why they were separated." The next day, the truth hit her like a tidal wave. Andrew and Malik had come from the same orphanage. Same intake week. Same malnutrition reports. Same sleep logs. One file even listed Malik as Andrew's room companion. But then, somewhere along the paper trail, a single line had been drawn across Malik's name in red ink. The words beside it read, "Deemed unfit. Adoption not recommended." And just like that, he was erased. No further mention. No option. No goodbye. Clara's hands shook as she read the documents over and over. They hadn't just omitted Malik, they'd deleted him. As if his life was less worthy. The next morning, she returned to the same street corner with Andrew, praying that Malik hadn't disappeared again. He hadn't. He was right where they'd left him, sitting on the ground, this time with a sandwich in his lap, offered by a kind stranger. When he saw Andrew again, his face lit up, not with surprise but with quiet hope. A hope that maybe, this time, someone had come back. Passers-by walked by without noticing, but Malik's eyes lit up the moment he saw Andrew. The boy in the tiny navy blue suit ran across the pavement and threw his arms around him, holding tight without a second thought. Clara knelt beside them, her voice gentle but certain. "Malik, I want to take you home," she said softly. "At least until we figure this out." Malik blinked, stunned. "Why?" he asked quietly, confused by the sudden kindness. "Because I should have asked about you a long time ago," Clara replied, her voice cracking slightly. "And because my son, your brother, never stopped remembering you." What followed were the longest days of Clara's life. She called in every favor she had, pushed every legal avenue, and had her team initiate emergency placement proceedings. A DNA test was rushed, though she already knew the answer. 6 days later, just before sunrise, her lawyer handed her the results. A 99.9% sibling match. Not by blood, but by bond. By history. Same orphanage. Same intake day. Same file. Same malnourishment reports. The records revealed what a penstroke had once erased. 2 boys, barely a year apart in age, bonded by survival and care, separated by bureaucracy and a brutal judgment scribbled in red ink. Unfit. Not recommended for adoption. But fate, and a boy's unbreakable memory, had written them back together. Clara held a press conference, not for attention, but for accountability. Her voice trembled as cameras flashed. "We adopted Andrew believing we were giving a child a second chance," she said. "But we weren't told he already had someone who loved him like a brother." That omission, it stole 5 years of childhood from 2 boys who only ever needed each other. She turned to the small, quiet boy standing beside Andrew, and gently placed a hand on his shoulder. "This is Malik," she said. "He isn't broken. He isn't less. He's brave. And from this day forward, he's home." The room stood. Some cried. And Malik, for the first time in years, smiled. In the months that followed, Malik began to bloom. He entered school for the first time and struggled to read, but his sharp mind quickly caught on to math. Andrew, proud as ever, held his hand every morning and introduced him to classmates. "This is my big brother." Clara made sure Malik had what he had never known: a Real bed, a nameplate on his bedroom door, a space in the family photo wall. He received therapy, nutrition support, and art classes. But more than all that, he was given something deeper: a future. And on his 9th birthday, Clara gave him one more thing. A gift that didn't cost a cent, but meant everything. Wrapped in silver tissue was a small laminated copy of the old cardboard sign he had once held on the street. The one that read "food." But beneath those faded letters, Clara had written something new in golden ink. "You asked for food. You gave love. Now you both have everything." Because some families are made by chance, but others are made by the children who refuse to forget each other. And Andrew? He didn't just find a boy on the street. He found the part of himself that had always been missing. A brother. Forever. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more emotional, dramatic, and truly unexpected tales. And tell us, where in the world are you watching from? We love hearing your stories too. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and keep watching.